On this edition of The American Veteran, an overview of women's programs at VA, the benefits of strength training for older veterans,
Here you go, sir.
the Youth Volunteer Award winner,
Service.
the history of women serving in the Coast Guard,
I have flown 43 different types.
and a look at WASPs of World War II. Welcome to The American Veteran, brought to you by the Department of Veterans Affairs. To commemorate Women's History Month, we're on location at the Women's Memorial in Arlington, Virginia. We'll begin by talking with General Wilma Vaught about their mission to preserve and honor women veterans.
The purpose of the memorial, the mission of the memorial, is to tell the story of women's service. And it's also a place where we collect and put together the history of women in the military. And until we started this, that history wasn't really being captured, and now we're capturing it.
Each year, youth volunteers are recognized for their service at VA hospitals across the nation. This year, Crystal Sherrill from Indiana is the winner of the James H. Park Scholarship. It's bingo night at the VA domiciliary in Indianapolis, Indiana. Several local veterans have gathered here to celebrate with friends and have a good time. As well, most have come to celebrate their friendship with an activity leader, an 18-year-old college freshman, Crystal Sherrill.
I would have never in a million years thought that something so little could have such a big impact, but it really has on them.
She's Crystal. It's just more or less kind of like she's part of the family, you know. I mean, veterans have camaraderie, and I think she fits right in there with us.
For every hour that she actually did at the VA, she was probably given 10 hours in the community. And the more I got to meet Crystal and hang out with her and see what she was doing, the more I learned the impact that she was having on the community and bringing the community to the VA and serving the patients at the domiciliary.
I was pretty much in a shell because, you know, I gave up. To see her smiling, always joyful, it kind of brought more, kind of opened me up a little bit more.
While in school, Crystal earns a number of academic and athletic honors. When she's out of the classroom, she devotes much of her time to volunteering for veterans' causes. It is a passion she continues to fuel through her time and service, a passion that has earned her the James H. Park Scholarship Award for Youth Volunteerism, presented annually by the James H. Park Memorial Fund.
I think if you find something that you're truly passionate about and something that's really close to your heart, then even as one person, you can make a big difference. So I started for my Girl Scout Gold Award project. I made lap blankets and delivered them to patients, not only just their legs and their body temperature, but warm their hearts as well.
One of the things that impresses me the most about Crystal is she has set a new standard here at the VA for volunteer youth. And a lot of the youth that we have in our program are now looking up to her and trying to figure out ways where they can then stretch their own boundaries.
Her cause continued to grow. Crystal eventually branded her efforts VETS, which stands for Veterans Have Earned Our Thanks and Support. Whether she was working with those in nursing homes, school groups on field trips, or others, Crystal always served as a general of her own passionate army of volunteers, making handcrafted items for veterans and putting together care packages and holiday items for active troops overseas.
You know, when you're overseas, the one thing is a constant on your mind is home. So when you receive packages, especially during the holidays, and Crystal did the Christmas trees, it means so much to us over there. It's just a reminder that we're not forgotten.
Others have also honored Crystal for her volunteer efforts. She was a guest at the White House in the spring of 2012 and has been a special contributor to President Obama's blog, Joining Forces, a site for military families and volunteers.
Veterans are an incredible group of people to give back to hear their stories and to be inspired by them like I have been the last few years. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Her work with the wounded has touched her life deeply. She is committed to a career in a pharmacy, hoping to serve in an area VA hospital.
She was our first student to go through a career shadow program, which is run by Voluntary Service. We find mentors in the VA that we can assign them to, and they learn all aspects. It was really neat to see her grow and learn more about the pharmaceutical area where she was placed, and learn and develop relationships with the pharmaceutical staff.
In one area of the VA, she's Ms. Cheryl, a hardworking pharmacy student. But back over in the domiciliary, she's just Crystal, a person driven by compassion. A person who gives out gifts to American veterans just as she continues to remember the gifts they have given to her.
Bingo!
And to all of us.
You take your time out of your day to come in here and do the things that you do. It really shows a real genuine concern. So for you, I genuinely wish the ultimate in happiness, the ultimate in career success, and may you and your parents continue to have a happy, prosperous relationship and careers in all you do. And God bless you tremendously, tremendously.
Oh, thank you so much. God bless you too.
To learn more about how you can volunteer at VA, contact your local medical center or visit the website volunteer.va.gov. Researchers at the VA Medical Center in Birmingham, Alabama, are studying the basic function of human muscle to promote better health for older veterans. Recently, those efforts have focused on patients suffering from Parkinson's disease, and the results are encouraging.
When Riley Nelson was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, his doctor told him that regular exercise would increase his strength and improve his agility.
I always had strong legs, but my upper body strength has deteriorated.
But this isn't a regular gym or a normal workout, because he volunteered to be part of a research program on strength training for older adults. The study, which begins in the gym and continues in a special research lab, is a unique partnership between VA and the University of Alabama, Birmingham. In the 1970s, VA realized it needed to plan for an aging veteran population and began establishing geriatric research educational and clinical centers, or GRECs, to provide specialized care for our older veterans. Today, there are 20 GRECs across the country, and research is a major component of their mission. Dr. Richard Allman, the director of the Birmingham Atlanta GREC, says this program is an effort to determine how exercise can help older people with Parkinson's disease improve their strength and mobility.
Parkinson's disease is a slowly progressive neurologic disorder that leads to problems with gait and balance and puts these individuals at risk for falling, which is a big problem. And exercise appears to be and is likely to be an ideal prescription or an ideal medicine for helping the individual with Parkinson's disease to learn how to better coordinate the brain function with their muscle function.
Dr. Allman says VA and the University of Alabama, Birmingham have complementary strengths and resources, and their partnership on studies like this one enables VA to do more research, offer better programs, and provide even better care for their patients. Like the other participants in the study, Riley goes to a special gym 3 times a week for scientifically designed and carefully monitored workouts that one day may help explain why older people lose muscle mass and, more importantly, how they can rebuild it. For Riley, it's an opportunity to help himself and other seniors, many of whom are veterans.
I was a poster child for symptoms of Parkinson's, and I wanted to be able to do anything I could to help somebody else who had those same symptoms live with it, because it can be debilitating.
Dr. Marcus Bamman, the director of the UAB Center for Exercise Medicine, leads the study and says his team has introduced a high-intensity exercise routine for aging adults with Parkinson's. He then studies the results in a research lab.
We know that over a period of decades of aging, both the Parkinson's patients and the healthy older adult have suffered some level of muscle atrophy, some amount of muscle loss. So we're interested in restoring that. We call that muscle regrowth.
The question is, exactly what impact does high-intensity exercise have on the aging process, on patients with Parkinson's disease?
We think that it can have significant benefit for both restoration of muscle function in terms of strength power development, reduced fatigability, improved balance and coordination.
Riley has only been in the program for 3 months, and he has already seen an improvement in his strength and agility.
In the mornings, I used to get up out of bed and feel like I was going to fall over, and I don't even have to brace myself to get out of bed anymore.
Danny Fuqua, another vet with Parkinson's disease, also volunteered for the workout study. And, like Riley, he's noticed a significant improvement in his physical condition.
I feel stronger, feel more confident, and I think it's certainly going to, in the long run, help me maintain mobility.
If a person wants to maintain their independence, they want to continue to live in the home that they've had for decades, and they want to be able to get up and down the stairs, and they want to be able to function in their community well, strength is absolutely critical.
About 10% of veterans are women. Dr. Irene Trowell-Harris, director of VA's Center for Women Veterans, provides an overview of benefits available.
I joined the military to serve my country, and initially I went in as a nurse. I became a flight nurse and flight nurse examiner and hospital commander, then advisor to the Surgeon General. I became a director probably because of my experience in the military and also my experience at the VA, but I've always been an advocate for women veterans issues, so I think that was one of the big parts of it, though. A big issue for all of us is to educate the public, the veterans, the media, everybody that they are veterans. Women do not self-identify. If they're not aware that they are eligible, that means they're not going to apply for these numerous benefits and services, which they have definitely earned. We have an advisory committee on women veterans. We have numerous ways of collecting data from the women veterans, and they're the ones that tell us what the needs are. E-Benefits is the portal for all veterans, active duty guard and reserve component. If a veteran's got an issue, she can call in and find out information out there. She can go to the VA Medical Center and ask for the Women Veterans Program Manager, who is somebody specifically educated and trained to take care of the women veterans. During Women's History Month, we're going to have a special program recognizing women veterans, honoring them. At that point in time, the VSOs are going to come in also and say how they are helping us change the culture, and they're going to speak to what they're doing with the women veterans. I want to point out that we recognize women all year round, not just during Women's History Month. The main thing, you're honoring those women veterans. Again, it's all eras and all services and all the eras out there, though.
For more information, you can visit the website on your screen. Back in 1942, Captain Dorothy Stratton became the first woman to serve as an officer in the Coast Guard, an achievement recognized here at WMSA with an exhibit in her honor. It reminds visitors that when it comes to providing equal opportunity for women in military service, the United States Coast Guard has often led the way. As you are about to see, many courageous women have served before Dorothy Stratton, and legions more have followed in her wake.
Pass it to the left.
Before you can fully appreciate what women have achieved in today's Coast Guard, it helps to look back on the role women have played in the history of our nation's coastal defense.
The U.S. Coast Guard is the oldest continuously operating sea service in the United States. Was the first one that was enacted after the Constitution.
Coast Guard historian William Thiessen says women were a part of things almost from the beginning, serving in coastal defense posts as part of the Lighthouse Service, a predecessor of the Coast Guard.
So actually the U.S. Coast Guard pioneered the role of women not only in a military service but in the federal government as well.
By the early 1940s, women had made their presence known throughout the Coast Guard, both as civilians and in the uniformed service.
There were above 10,000 women that served in the Coast Guard in World War II, and it's really just grown since that time.
Interest really took off in 1976. When the Coast Guard Academy became America's first service academy to accept female applicants. In 2011, Rear Admiral Sandy Stowes took over as superintendent, becoming the first woman in the nation's history to run a military academy.
So the Coast Guard really pioneered that as well, bringing women to the academy in the late 70s, integrating them onto ships in the 80s.
The trend towards full service integration continued through the 1990s, and on into the following decade,
when Operation Iraqi Freedom created a demand for combat support from the Coast Guard.
They were serving actually as force protection for larger coalition assets such as warships. And a lot of times they were serving further into enemy territory during combat operations than any other vessels.
One of them, Coast Guard cutter Aquidneck, was commanded by Holly Harrison, the first female commander of a Coast Guard vessel in a combat zone, and the first to receive a Bronze Star.
We were escorting humanitarian aid up to the port so that could then be further distributed into Iraq. So we were trying to keep the Iranians out of Iraqi waters. They were harassing Iraqi fishermen in Iraqi waters. Basically, we needed to make sure there were no Al-Qaeda on board, there were no Iraqi leadership on board, no wealth of the nation escaping and being taken elsewhere. So we had to screen all these vessels just pouring out of the river.
Right now, the way it looks, we're going to move the ship on Sunday. Big week for us is really the second week. Monday morning, we're going to get underway.
I don't think gender really matters to her. It was really just getting the job done. She's another Coast Guardsman and cutterman, and she was there just to get the job done, and I don't think anybody else in her crew felt any different either.
Make sure that you have the up-to-date information so that when you update the XO, we can knock off as many of those discrepancies as possible.
You know, it's funny, I get asked a question about being a woman in the military quite a bit because people see it as a novelty, but I never have. It was a complete non-issue for the Coast Guard, which is actually how I prefer it.
As Commander Harrison sees it, there's something of far greater significance than gender that characterizes the men and women she serves with.
I think Coasties are doers. That's why we joined the Coast Guard. We don't want to sit in an office. We don't want to sit behind a desk. We're here to make a difference in whatever way that we contribute to doing that. And particularly you're talking here on a ship, cuttermen, we're out there to get the mission done.
During World War II, a select group of young women pilots became pioneers, heroes, and role models. They were the Women Air Force Service Pilots, or WASPs, the first women in history trained to fly American military aircraft. This video is a tribute in their honor.
There was a great need for pilots in the dark days of 1942.
Everyone wanted to do their patriotic duty. These young women had a passion to fly.
25,000 women applied. 1,074 of us earned our wings.
I have flown 43 different types of aircraft.
I flew both the B-17 and the B-26, which is the Marauder.
The actual name WASP, it's Women Air Force Service Pilots.
Well, I think there were a lot of men that didn't believe women could learn to fly military planes, but we showed them.
The whole country had to be revitalized, educated, had to participate in this huge event of defeating the Axis powers. Jacqueline Cochran thought that she could help if she could train women pilots to fill the need. You can't have a pilot overnight. She promoted an idea to have General Hap Arnold. She could recruit women from around the United States, and they could fill a need for the flying jobs in America, and then let the trained pilots, male pilots, go overseas. And Hap Arnold agreed to this idea. How to do it was the question.
Well, Jackie Cochran in Washington got a list, somehow acquired a list of all the women pilots, licensed pilots in the United States, and she tracked me down and she called me and asked me to be in her first class. So I was excited and I got on a plane and flew down there.
The first class came to Houston, Texas. That's where the training program was begun. No one was prepared to deal with 29 women who were brought in to do who knew what.
I was assigned to the 1174th Squadron, and Major Freddie Wilson welcomed us, and he had received a telegram just 2 days before to expect 17 women pilots. And he said, "My God, what am I going to do with 17 women pilots?" And he said, "Aha, I know. I will assign them to my 3 married instructors, for they will know how to handle women."
To be
accepted as a WASP, each girl had to have 35 hours in the air beforehand, enough to know men's airplane talk when they hear it. The WASPs are willing to plow into as rugged a 6-month stretch as anything handed to women in the whole war effort. Map reading and physics, navigation and code, with strict AAF exams in each, too. For men, it would be tough. It's tough for girls, too.
Well, I think there were a lot of men that didn't believe women could learn to fly military planes. I think we had to prove ourselves. We were called the guinea pig class because they weren't sure we were ever going to make it, but we showed them.
I'm the member of the 5th class, 43-5, and by this time the program was settled in Sweetwater, Texas. And it's very hot, 100 degrees, the wind's blowing, 120, you know. We lived 6 to obey, had military regime, and the lights were turned out at 10 o'clock. We had a flashlight med check. We had lots of regulations. And we marched. We marched to class, we marched to mess, we marched to the flight line, we marched to PT, and we sang songs. Zoot suits and parachutes and wings of silver too.
Little fairy planes like his mama used to do.
All of our flight equipment and flight suits, everything, were hand-me-downs from the men. So the legs were rolled up and stapled, and the sleeves were rolled up, and then I took the belt and just put it on me and pulled everything up here. I looked like a mushroom walking around on that base. We went through the same training that the men did. Ground school in the morning and fly in the afternoon. Primary, basic, advanced, night flying, and instrument flying. I think the hardest part is always the check flight with the Army pilots because, oh, they were rough on us. My class started out with 150 girls. 49 of us got our wings. And that's all that made it.
Jacqueline Cochran came for my graduation. And she wore a flowered dress and a flowered hat. And when she handed me my wings, they were cold. And I remember squeezing them, and then I shook hands, and I said, I did it. That was the most wonderful saying. You could never, those 3 words, I did it.
And the big advertising slogan to attract women to go into the service was free a man to fight. Now that didn't start in World War II. It was a slogan for World War I. And many women responded to that. There were many women who responded because they were the only woman in their family who could go defend the country and represent the family. There were others who went in because they had a brother who was killed in one of the early conflicts. But by and large, most of them went in because they were good, patriotic Americans, and they wanted to help defend this country. Some 400,000 women served during World War II. And they are such wonderful people, and they are so proud of their service. And so many have said in their memorable experience, I would do it again if my country needed me. Now at age 90, I'm not sure how much their country needs them today, but that was their attitude. And many of them said it was the single most exciting or most meaningful thing that they ever did in their life. So it was a good thing. And had they not done well, then those of us today would never have probably had an opportunity to serve. But they did well, and as a result, 2 years after the end of the war, legislation was passed saying that women would be a permanent part of the armed forces.
That concludes this edition of The American Veteran. The Department of Veterans Affairs is honored to bring you this program.